Hello, I'm Greg with Brahma Rights. I would like to share a comment that I received on YouTube with you guys today. Exactly what is this guy's credentials? Is he a degree holder in metallurgy, engineering? Sure likes to advocate that he is the last word in hand-loading knowledge. Don't recall hearing about him winning any major matches. Is he a Hall of Fame bench rest recipient? Why would any brass manufacturing company care what he thinks? He would seem to me to be a typical know-it-all. I'd like to point out that credentials is misspelled. It raises an interesting point. Who am I exactly? Who am I? Why should anyone listen to anything that I have to say? Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't listen to anything that I have to say. Maybe everything that I'm telling you here is false. Maybe if you try the things that I have advocated for, the techniques, the equipment, the processes, the styles of shooting, if you try some of that stuff, you might be met with disappointment. It might not work. The knowledge that I'm giving you may be false. Literally everything that comes out of my mouth here on this channel may be false. How would you know? If you're not already an expert and you don't already know whether or not the things that I've said or advocated for are false, then how would you know? It raises an interesting question of authenticity, doesn't it? But I wonder if there is a burden of proof that this gentleman would accept. I wonder if any of the people that disagree with some of the things that I've said here on my channel or the techniques that I advocate for, I wonder if the burden of proof is reasonable. I wonder if what they're asking or what they're demanding, most of the time they're not asking anything, they're making demands. They feel as if I owe them something. And in actuality, I don't owe them anything. I don't owe them one single consideration. And I wonder if the burden of proof that they would demand that I provide would change their opinions about anything. You see, there's a common thread amongst people that have the ability to form definitive opinions or definitive decisions that they've come to in their own mind about something, but yet not have any experience or not have enough experience to be making such a definitive conclusion in their own mind about what is correct and what is not correct. You see, what I've found is that these people have a burden of proof that is absolutely unattainable. There is no amount of evidence that I could provide that would satiate their demands or to give them enough evidence that would at least get them to consider the possibility, right? Not to decide one way or the other, but to begin to think, to find out, right? Perhaps approach it with overly skeptical mindset and say, well, I don't think that that's true, but I'm going to go find out. Because if they were the type of people that were going to do that, they wouldn't be here negatively commenting on this channel in the first place. I'll share a little bit of truth here with you guys that I've discovered, and that is no wise man is making negative comments on YouTube. Now, there may be some rare exceptions, but they would be extremely rare exceptions indeed, where a truly wise individual would be making negative comments on any social platform, actually, because the very nature of engaging into a discussion demands that you care enough about the outcome to have a forthright discussion about the topic. That means you have to be willing to put your whole entire self out there. Everything that you actually believe. One of the most annoying things that I've ever encountered in my life is when I'm speaking to someone and they say, Well, if I could play devil's advocate for a moment, and I think to myself, why would you want to advocate for the devil? Why would you want to take a position that is contrary just for the sake of prolonging an argument? Why not instead focus on what is true, what is actually pure, what is going to deliver some net positive in the conversation? I understand some people use this euphemism as a general guideline on how they're going to form decisions, right? They want to argue both sides of it so that they can have at least the appearance of not being biased. They want to at least have that appearance. Whether that's truly their motivation or not, I guess it's difficult to say. But one thing that I am fairly certain about is that the burden of proof for people that are engaged in negative, disruptive comments are just not going to be met. Not by any reasonable standard anyway. And that's ignoring the fact that there are so many of the negative comments that are actually not even human beings. They are AI, right? Artificial intelligence. They are bots. I'm sure many of you have heard that terminology before, right? A bot or a robot. And what that means is a piece of computer software that is interacting with the comment section via a fake account, right? It's not actually a human being. It's not a person that is writing these things. Now, what some of you may not know is that there are quite a lot of content creators on various social platforms that use the real people's negative comments and emotions to farm engagement. Now, this is the dark underbelly of modern social media, in the sense that if you can get a battle started in your comments section, then your engagement will go through the roof. Now, if you've never heard that term before, engagement, right? That is a measure of a whole bunch of different factors on how people are interacting with your content. And there's quite a lot of YouTube channels, other content creators that use this engagement farming technique quite regularly. I know this for a fact, right? Some of them even go to such lengths as to create multiple YouTube accounts to go into the comments of their own video under a different account and say something negative or start a fight with someone in the comments section, because they know that if they can stir up a bunch of drama and turmoil in the comments section, then their engagement numbers will go through the roof. And you guys out there fall for it every single time. You engage in a negative capacity, arguing and bickering whenever someone pokes or prods at you. And hey, I'm not saying this in a condemning fashion, right? I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy that couldn't deal with any kind of affront towards me. And if that happened on an internet forum or something like that, then I would anchor myself in and we would have a nice debate. And I don't care how hot or how troublesome it got, I would not withdraw from it. And it wasn't until I learned a couple of things that I realized just how absolutely silly that all was. And I'm talking about fairly recently here, right? And this is not like many, many years ago or something like. No, it's taken me pretty much my entire adult life to learn this. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because if there is an underlying theme to the content that I produce here on this channel, leave no stone unturned, constant effort and improvement, not perfection. It may seem like that, right? I demand perfection of myself, but doesn't mean that I achieve it. I'm far from perfect. Far from. And in my past, I was so far from perfect that I wasn't even remotely close to a proper upright example like I should have been. And even today, I don't really measure myself in that way. I found that it's not a really good idea. Instead, focusing on that constant improvement tends to be my focus. Trying to make sure that today was better than yesterday, tomorrow will be better than today. That's a healthy mindset. That is an achievable mindset and an achievable goal. But not to get too far off here, because what we're talking about here is credibility at the end of the day. Who am I? That's what this guy is asking. Who am I? And of course, he's doing it in a very inflammatory way. But so many people are so hurt and so traumatized by their life's experiences that they quite literally don't know another way to be. They don't even have a choice if you were to ask them. Right now, I know that they have a choice. Of course they have a choice. But if you were to ask them, they're not even making a conscious choice, right? It's not something that they're thinking through and then deciding. Now, there are exceptions to this. We have such a thing as trolls, right? People that make negative comments online for the sole purpose of generating eliciting a negative response. And that's a hobby for them. Some of them actually do it professionally, right? Because this engagement farming, it turns out this is actually a huge industry. And if you can make a video go viral, then you can generate a ton of revenue. And I've done this myself, right? I just wanted to know if I could. I wanted to know if I had what it took to create content like a big giant YouTube channel creates, right? With tons of views and a massive engagement. A lot of you have probably seen this video that I'm talking about. And what I did was I picked a topic that was very difficult to quantify, right? Knowing the truth of it would be ultra burdensome. In this instance, you would have to go through probably 50 rifle barrels. And I mean, shoot them out and be cleaning them super frequently. And like you would have to invest a massive amount of time and money and effort to learn the truth of it. So I picked something that's super hard to quantify, and then I also picked a topic that is generally the root of a lot of dissension and turmoil. I mean, nobody agrees on this topic. And for any of you out there that are thinking about making a YouTube channel and you'd want it to be successful and popular, that's how you do it. You pick a topic that can't be really quantified easily, and you pick one that generates a bunch of turmoil as a result, and then you anchor in and push only one side of it, right? Take a very hard stance. Don't go down the middle of the road. Take a hard stance to one direction or the other, and then you let the fight commence in your comment section. Your engagement will go through the roof. YouTube won't be able to serve that thing to enough people to watch. Now, that video that I'm mentioning has over 1 million views on my channel. It is by far and above my most viewed piece of content with the highest number of comments, and the amount of revenue that I've generated off that video is absurd. It is really just absurd. It may interest some of you to know that I feel nothing about that video. I mean, it is one of the most it is one of, if not the most useless piece of content that I've ever created. And by comparison, I have videos on this channel that, were you to watch them and employ what is described in there, it would alter everything you know about yourself as a shooter. It would bring your skill set to an entirely different place. Some of those types of videos have less than 1,000 views, or less than 2,000 views or something. I mean, just a few hundred views, some of them. Some of the most impactful things that I have to offer in this discipline are in those videos, and I am blown away by the fact that it has so few views, while in the same time, this other piece of content is absolute garbage. It is hot garbage. It is just an unworthy piece of trash video, and you guys can't get enough of it. Now, when I say you guys, I'm not talking about those of you that are actually using my content as I have intended it to be used, which is I want to put this information out there. I have an obligation to put this information out there as I see it, exactly as I've said it. And those of you that are using it in that capacity, of course, I absolutely love the fact that you guys are getting utility from the work that I do here. But I also don't care if you are or not. Now, here is where it starts to get a little interesting, right? Because in the past, a comment like this one that I read would have probably hurt my feelings a little bit. Because calling everything about my authority into question, right? And this was when I thought I had some authority in this. These days, I just don't care whether or not someone thinks I have authority. I know I have authority. And I've known that for a really long time in my career. I've been professionally instructing shooters for probably 15 years, maybe a little longer, in one capacity or the next. I have been participating in this discipline in one capacity or the next for nearly 20 years. And I mean, for probably 15 years, I have taken this very seriously. It's been the primary focus of what I have done. And in that time, I have understood a couple of things. That I don't really care if someone believes me or not any longer. I really don't. If you don't, well, then you probably have some reason for it, and you're either going to try to figure out what that reason is. You can ask questions, right? You can engage in dialogue with me, or you can start doing a search on your own and try to come to the truth via your own testing and your own experience. And I always recommend that, by the way. I want you guys to go and try this stuff. I want you to employ it. Don't think that you can just not know anything about what you're doing and then perform a test and have it prove the theory or disprove it, because if you don't know how to run the test, you won't be able to direct the outcome anyways. So it's all quite complicated. But again, we land back on the burden of proof, right? Just exactly what part of this is my responsibility, and I've come to the conclusion that none of it is my responsibility. Every single second that I spend trying to convince one of you that you should listen to me, I've found is a wasted second. That time I can't get back. And depending on your mindset, the burden of proof will be set so high that there is no amount of work that I could possibly do to convince you to change your mind. I once thought that was not true. I once thought that, hey, this is just a communication breakdown, and if I were to explain it in the correct way, then you would get it. But that's not true. That's not true. Some people will never get it because they don't deserve to get it. They don't get to have that information. None of that gets to make sense to them until they have paid the price that is due. Then they can understand. But without that experience, without that time, money, effort invested, they don't get to know about that. Now, that is one of the most singular favorite things about my mentorship, in the sense that when someone starts resisting me right away, instead of asking more questions, then I automatically know that I'm dealing with someone that is really not worth the effort at this present time, right? Because they may be worth the effort at some time in the future, but if what they're trying to do is to get me to convince them, right, rather than teach them, if they're looking for convincing rather than to have me present the information, to present my experience in its totality, then I already know that I am really just wasting my time. Because there's this thing called cognitive dissonance. The more evidence you provide someone that has a contrary opinion to your own, the harder they will resist that evidence, right? The more they will resist changing their mind. Now, this is a trait that is common among people that come to false conclusions early, meaning they make decisions very frequently from a position of inexperience, and they make proclamations of truth in their own mind that are not backed up by any kind of real experience or knowledge on their part, but yet they believe them so strongly that no one can dissuade them of the fact that that is indeed that's not true. So the issue here is trying to say that I'm responsible for convincing you of the things that I share here on this channel. Yeah, that's not something I'm going to do. I'm not interested in that. I don't care about that. If you don't like the content that you see here, you don't have to watch it. You certainly don't have to employ it. You're the one that chooses in this situation. You can turn the channel off. You can unsubscribe. There's plenty of other content for you to watch, right? Someone that you might agree with more. Someone that you resonate with. Someone that you like. Someone that you're willing to take the risk and try what they're saying to do. But in any event, this issue really comes down to popularity, right? Because I have to prove to you of what I'm capable of and who I am in order to gain the authority that allows me to seize attention and popularity. And that's kind of how this modern currency on these social media platforms works. However, I don't care about any of that. Yeah, that kind of presents a problem, doesn't it? I don't care if I'm popular. Point in fact, I'd rather not be popular. I would rather not be popular. I'd rather not be liked by everyone. Because I'm on a different path. And the path that I'm on, the majority of people aren't on. And so I've come to terms with that, and I hadn't always, but now that I have, it's a source of tremendous peace for me, because if someone's resisting this, what I know to be truth in this discipline, right at the onset, then it alleviates me of the responsibility of dealing with them. Now, I didn't always feel this way, but I have a couple of things to share with you that might kind of clue you guys in a little bit about how I feel about things these days. Okay, so I've got a Bible in my hand here. Revelation 22:11. He who's unjust, let him be unjust still. He who is filthy, let him be filthy still. He who is righteous, let him be righteous still. He who is holy, let him be holy still. And so this is basically saying, hey, you leave them right where you find them, if that's what they are. So if they're really negative, you have no obligation to make them otherwise. They have to choose to have help, and then they can receive help. But someone that doesn't choose it will never receive the help that they claim to want. They have to make the choice first. Now, this issue of credibility, essentially this commenter, he is saying, who are you? He's saying, who are you to proclaim this stuff? And he's taking exception with the things that I've said. And this particular comment was regarding brass, the quality of brass. Like, are you a metallurgist? Nope, I'm not a metallurgist. Nope, I don't have a degree. He asked if I have a degree, right? He's looking for all kinds of worldly ways to define whether or not it's okay to dismiss me in his mind. And he's finding every reason that he can and should dismiss me in his mind. have you won any major matches? Well, I've won matches, several of them. What's a major match? Like, is it like a world championship or something? No, I haven't done that either. Those of you that watch this channel frequently, you know that I don't like competition, and I advocate against competition these days. But no, so I don't do that. He asked if I was a bench rest Hall of Famer. No, I don't like bench rest. I don't compete in that. I prefer for my rifles to be of utilitarian value. I don't want to rely on a 50-pound front rest and a 30-pound rear bag in order to be able to shoot. Okay, let's get real about something here real quick. I'm just showing a pretty average performance here, okay? There's nothing stellar about the kind of shooting that you see here. Realistically, if you're not hitting all 20 of these half-inch dots, you've got some improvement to do, and so this is a brand new rifle. I've had it for like a couple of weeks, and it has just a little over 300 rounds on it. Haven't even really spent any real time doing development. Instead, I'm basically forcing it to shoot with 75 grain ELDMs. Why? Because this is a prairie dog colony varmint rig, and I want them to blow up when I hit them. And when I use hollow point boat tails, target bolts like burgers and stuff like that, they tend to just pencil right through. So you're not even seeing what I consider to be a stellar performance. It's not even close. If I wanted to shoot as tight as this rifle could shoot, I would be using burgers or A-tips or, Hornady can make a pretty good bullet. Their A-tip is proving to be just a really good bullet. But I wouldn't be using the ELDMs. They're bargain bullets. The reason why I shoot them is because they're a fantastic bullet for the price. You get so much BC, but they're not as good when it comes to shooting tiny, right? You don't see ELDMs shooting super, super, super small over and over again, right? I have more flyers with the ELDMs than I do the A-tips by far. The A-tips, conversely, have been pretty good. I haven't really had a complaint with them. They tend to shoot pretty small. As small as my burgers? Yeah, probably not, if I'm being fair about it. But then, too, I have volumes more experience loading for the burgers than I do the A-tips. And so it could be just figure out how to get along with them and what they like the most type thing. So this is not intended to be, oh, look how I can shoot. This is actually pretty terrible. Like, this is not representative of what my best shooting rifles with the best loads on my best day looks like. But that's really not the point, is it? The point is, I don't care what anybody thinks about this. Like, I shoot for me. It's a pure thing. I don't look to other people for validation of my skill set in the first place. And the only reason why I put this stuff out there is for those of you that have already made the decision to try some of the stuff that I'm advocating here on this channel, that you've already made the decision to listen to something that I've said. And I put this here to give you some comfort, to say, look, hey, if I can at least demonstrate the kind of performance that my techniques will provide, and you could then say, well, hey, if I can get to shoot like that, that'd be good enough, right? It's not intended for any other purpose. It's just to let you know that if you do things the way that I do them, this is the kind of thing that you can see. So every accuracy and precision demonstration that you've seen on this channel is to that end, right? I just want to give you some comfort and say, well, look, choose, right? Look at how I can perform and then choose. Is that good enough for you? If it is, well, then do everything the way that I say it, and you will be able to do this too. It's pretty simple. It's repeatable, right? I've repeated that with lots of people over quite a long period of time. And so that's what this is here for, not to bolster my ego. I really don't care about my ego anymore. I used to quite a lot, but I really don't anymore. Because in order for me to care about that, I'd have to care what everybody thinks of me. And I just don't care about that any longer. More importantly than that, I don't want you to care about what anybody thinks about your shooting either. That's one of the keys to finding peace in this discipline, is just shooting your own shots, letting them be how they are, learning and progressing, right? The process of going through it all. That's the important bit. What other people think about how you are doing things is irrelevant, myself included, right? If you're not actively seeking my counsel and paying me for it, well, then it has no value to you. And so you should do whatever you want, irrespective of what I say. This is the part that these people that come and make negative comments don't seem to understand. Not only do I not care what they think, nobody else should either. I like my rifles to be field capable, and I like to be able to shoot small, even with lightweight carbon fiber rifles. And so, nope, I'm not a bench rest Hall of Famer, and I'm not a world champion F-class shooter either. And so, who am I in this discipline, right? He's very justified in asking these things. And the truth of it is, well, maybe I am no one in this discipline. Do I have to be someone? No. You know, if you're asking me what I need to be, well, I don't need to be anything in this discipline of precision rifle shooting. That is not what drives me. I don't need to be anyone for the world. I don't need to be anyone for my viewership. I don't need to be anyone for all of the people out there. I really don't need to be anyone for them. Now, I'd like to be, and you know what? There's always at least one. Every piece of content that I've put out, there's always been at least one person that it meant something to. One person that it helped them move forward in some capacity. And, you know, I don't need for there to be at least one person, but it's always nice, right? If I can help one person, maybe 10, maybe 100. You know what? Maybe 1,000, maybe 100,000. Well, however many it is, I'm grateful for the opportunity to help. I'm grateful that they chose to allow it to help them, because they didn't have to choose that. They could be just as short-sighted and narrow-minded as this negative commenter, whether he be a real person or just a bot, right? It could be a robot, for all I know, which is why I don't give it much weight. But they chose to allow something that I presented to help them, and they could have not, so what a blessing that is. But then too, I am just awestruck and grateful at the opportunity to be able to do it. Not necessarily the outcome. Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for the outcome when that outcome is positive. But it's not like I'm perfect. And what if the outcome is negative? Well, I guess I'll have to take just as much of a burden for that, right? That there's always the possibility. I can't dictate how things are going to be received. I don't have that within my power. That's not within my power. But I can be universally grateful for the opportunity to teach. The opportunity to have the experiences that have led me to these truths in this discipline where, in some instances, no one else was led. Like, that is a tremendous opportunity, and what a thing to be grateful for. And I mean, this is a monumental gift that we're talking about here. And I'm not special in this regard. This is a gift that is available to all of you out there, if you choose it, right? But you have to choose it. Now, you'll notice that there's many ways that I differ from the various other content creators out there, especially in the precision rifle discipline. Now, I don't watch very much of that stuff these days. There's really no point in me doing so. I'm very content with the blessings that I've received, and I'm very content to do my own work and have my own experiences. Generally speaking, I find that most content creators are really, really concerned with being popular. They are very concerned about how they're perceived by y'all out there. and they're not willing to take a stand on things that would potentially put that popularity in jeopardy, even if it's in service of the truth. That doesn't really matter. And I don't agree with that. And so you don't see me doing stuff with other creators very much in that regard. And if I do, it's just in a consulting capacity, really. You know, this who am I question, right? Again, we go to the Bible here. Now, this is red letters, folks. Okay, so it's important that you understand this is something that came directly out of the mouth of Jesus, as recorded in John 15, verse 16, right? This guy is asking, well, who are you? This is who I am, okay? You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. Now that is Jesus saying, he chose me, just like he chose you. Those of you out there that are willing to say his name in public, he is saying that he chose us to bear fruit. He chose us to go and bear good fruit, and that fruit should be lasting fruit. And that if we do that, then everything that we ask from God will be given to us, were we to but ask it in his name. Now, here we've stumbled onto the reason why I maintain this channel, why I produce this content, why I am willing to endure some of the hardships that come along with it, why I feel such gratitude and the opportunity to be able to go and shoot as much as I do, and to be led to the truths that I eventually share with you guys here. You see, I have an obligation because I'm chosen. I have an obligation to produce good fruit. That means go in the way that I'm led and to share the truth as I find it. Go in the way that he's leading me, using the gifts that I've been given, and then do something good with that. And therein lies my obligation. I must do this. And I would still do this if there was only one person that watched any of the content that I put out. When I first started this channel, I didn't have the presence of mind to even know exactly why I was doing it. There was all kinds of motivations that would go through my mind back then. It was so long ago, but yet not at the same time. And the motivations that drive me today are so far detached from the motivations that drove me then that it's difficult for me to put into words how different everything is now, and how much more different it gets with each progressive year. You see, the truth is, none of us have an obligation to who we were 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, 5 months ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 seconds ago. None of us have an obligation to our former selves in that way. But what we do have is an obligation to our Creator to persevere, to become better every day that we are here, to make something worthwhile with our time. The bearing of good, lasting fruit. Ultimately, is why I keep producing these videos. And so when someone questions my authority, I say, go ahead. It's not my authority. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to do as I say to do. You don't even have to watch my channel. You can just click it off and go watch something else if you'd like. But I've reached a point in all of this, in life and in my career in this discipline. I have no interest in explaining myself any longer. It has no appeal to me. I don't need to explain myself. It's a waste of time. And those of you that would ask me to explain myself, you're completely unaware of the fact that you're wasting your time also. Because so what? If I were to meet the burden of proof that you're putting forth, it wouldn't make any difference. At the end of the day, if you want the knowledge, you're still gonna have to do the work. You don't get experience by reading, by watching. You get experience by doing. And that's why I can alleviate myself of the responsibility here. Because I'm bearing good fruit. I have no obligation to make you eat it. That good fruit can hang there for those that want to pick it and consume it and put it to good in their own life. Or it can wither on the vine as this video falls into obscurity, just like so many other videos like it, and falls to the ground and gets consumed by the inevitable decay of modern society. You see, I'm not tying my happiness or my fulfillment or my definition of who I am here on this earthly plane to the outcome of how many likes this video gets, or how many subscribers or followers I get from this content. No, the definition of success for me is how closely to the path that's been laid before me can I walk? How closely can I adhere to the guidelines that have been given to me in the ultimate instruction manual for life? How closely can I adhere to those things in there? And that is my measure of success every day. And some days I fail, other days I succeed, but the outcome doesn't define my value any longer. The process, how I conduct the process, that is what dictates my value. And that is why I keep being blessed with the opportunities to do more, which allows me to learn more, which allows me to then come and share the revelations of those truths that I discover in this discipline here with you guys on this channel, bearing yet more good fruit. You see, I have no obligation even to myself. I'm working for someone that is perfect and can judge me perfectly, can judge my effort perfectly. And I am confident in his judgment. And it's because of that confidence that I can come here to you today and say, yes, I am either someone to you or I am no one to you. And no matter what you decide, I'm perfectly okay with it.